Hi there. I'm excited to show you some of these databases, and I'm starting by being here at the George Fox Library website, which you can find by going to georgefox.edu/library. And below quick links, there's this button here for databases A to Z. And when I click here, I can see the whole list of 226 databases. That's pretty overwhelming, and many of them relate to subjects that are different than English, that are different than what you are looking for. There's a few ways that you can get more specific. One way here is by clicking this drop-down menu and selecting English. And here we're going to find the databases that I referenced in the email. Now I'm going to go ahead and click on the two that we'll go over today. One is MLA International Bibliography with full text. And let me refresh here and try again. I think I had this open before. There we go. So that comes up. The other one I want to open here for you is Gale Literature Criticism. And I found both of those again using that list of databases A to Z. So here in Gale Literature Criticism, there's a few resources that I want to show you. The first one is Browse Topics. This is excellent. It's a great way to search both authors and works. Specifically, we're going to look at a book that is on your class list, Moby Dick by Herman Melville. And so over here, there's topics, but there's also works. So we're going to look at Moby, and it comes right on up. And we get a basic overview and some quick facts. We also get articles that are in relation to this time period. But I want to click on the actual entry in relation to Moby Dick. And we're going to click Read More here. And I get to a 2015 article here that has a nice synopsis, that has some basic criticism, and we also here up top have links to related articles and criticisms that we can click and read more. So I could go ahead and right click on this one and open it in a new tab, and you have full text access to this article. This is an essay dated 1969, and you can see if you want to spend more time with that. So I'm going to click out here, and I'm going to go to previous page. So we can also, from this search of Moby Dick, can see lists of criticisms and see all criticisms, 149. And you can decide if there's other subtopics that you want to explore, like modernism or theater, things of that nature. Now let's go back, and let's go back to the topics page. And I'm going to look at authors now. So if I type in Melville, I get the same idea. I get a general overview. I also get time period articles that could be related and featured criticisms. Let's go ahead and click on this featured one. And I get a nice introduction. I get a list of some principal works. And I get this great list of further readings. This is one of the best things about Gale Literature Criticism, and worthy of your time. There's more ways you can search Gale Literature Criticism besides just the this Browse Topics link. You can also do advanced searches. And whenever you do a search advanced searches like this, you're going to see often several boxes for search terms. You're going to see fields, and the default is always going to be keyword search. So it could come up in the abstract, it could come up in the title, but it could also come up anywhere in the full text. So that gets a little bit dangerous, especially when you're dealing with longer articles where someone could just make a passing reference to something. So when you do a basic search, just know that it can be a bit of a risk. But let's go ahead and type in Moby Dick. And we're going to say that that is the name of the work. And we're just going to look for anything related to Moby Dick. You get 254 in criticism. You get 13 that come up in biographies, 8 in topic and work overviews, some news. The further you go over here, these get less scholarly and more informational. And you're welcome to spend time going through this list. I like to get below 200 results. To me, that's a really nice, more browsable number. Even here, when we get above 250, that just seems like a few more clicks. I'm going to stop here with Gale literature criticism for now. And I'm going to go to the next database that I opened up, which was this MLA, International Bibliography with full text. And again, I found that using the database's A to Z tab. This database is an EBSCO branded database. EBSCO is a database company. They make all sorts of databases, not just MLA. And you can see that by clicking this Choose Databases. These are many of our database holdings that we have through EBSCO. And so if you say EBSCO, my default is to say, which EBSCO database are you searching? You can search multiple EBSCO databases at a time, even by clicking on some of these. Sometimes that can be okay, especially if you know which ones might have interdisciplinary connections. Each EBSCO database has slightly different tools at their disposal, and so it can be just fine to search multiple at the same time, but it really depends on what you're doing. Some of the tools that I'm referencing are over here on the left. Depending on your computer, they might already be here on the top blue bar. On my laptop, they show up as these 3 dots on the top left. And some of the resources that are unique to this MLA database are Browse Works and Browse Authors. Most databases have some sort of a thesaurus where people from within the library field have tagged articles but with specific subject terms and how they relate to specific articles. Let's start here though with the Browse Works tab. It's going to function kind of similarly to what we did in Gale literature criticism. And I'm going to go ahead and type here Moby Dick and click Browse. Now it said it could not be found, but if I scroll down here, let's click here. This is the correct entry. I get the right author, the right time period, and say I wanted to find stuff related to Moby Dick. I clicked the checkbox for it. I could also see this whole list down here for different characters. I may want to do more with Ishmael later, but for now, let's just go ahead and start with Moby Dick and see what we find. So DE is just the prefix for subject terms, and they used direct quotes to go around. So there are 1,399 results that come up for Moby Dick. Now, maybe I want scholarly peer-reviewed. These can be very important for doing academic research. The other thing is I am not multilingual, especially in terms of research, and so I'm going to click English. So now I've done a few limiters over here on the side. I've limited it to scholarly peer-reviewed and to works in English. Just know that when I change my works here at the top, I'm going to lose these refined results preferences, and I'll have to click those every time. Again, I still like to get my results down below 200. I feel like that makes it a much more manageable number of results. So maybe I want to see some other themes here. So let's look at Moby Dick and free will. So I did free will and I didn't change anything over here. So this is just all text. So I only get one result. So that's not very helpful to me. So what if I just take that off, not do the subject line anymore, and do Moby Dick and free will? Ooh, still one. That's not very much. Now, what if I did Moby Dick with Ishmael as a character? 96. That is a very reasonable number of results to go through. So whenever you get under 200, I recommend pausing right here, remembering what things you typed in, especially if you're going to be coming back and searching later, so that way you don't double up your work, and going through this list and seeing if there are things that relate to what you are wanting to research. Now I'm going to pretend that this anti-Ishmael novel beginnings in Moby Dick looks really fascinating. So I click here and I see it comes up in this database. It's 19 pages, so I know it's not a book, just a book review, which is good to know. And I don't see an abstract. Normally, before I read the full text, I'd want to look for an abstract. But here, it doesn't also have the full text built into the database. So let's check for full text. So what it's doing now is it's opening this link in Primo, which I'll spend some time showing you Primo in a little bit. And what it's telling me is that we have access to this article through one of our different database holdings. So I'm going to click on the full text access. I get to this publisher site, and you can read the full article here in HTML, or I can get a PDF. And that's going to open that in a new tab, and I can download this. And you can then come back to this at any point in time. But this can then be a nice way to evaluate it. Let's go back out of the full text, and let's see if we can even find any kind of backgrounds. There's figures and data, nothing. What about references? I get to the Works Cited page very quickly, which can be really nice. But again, I don't see the abstract, which is too bad. And that might be, I'm wondering if this is in an ebook. No, because we said it was already in this literature interpretation theory. Too bad. I was really hoping to see if we could find a nice abstract here. But in this case, this one doesn't have an easily accessible abstract, so you'd have to decide if you wanted to read the whole article by itself. I'm gonna save this and come back to it a little bit later. So I'm gonna keep this as a tab that's open. And I'm gonna go back to the search results. So that's how you can use the Browse Works tab, and that's what we were doing, just tweaking that to see what combination gets the best results. So much of searching comes down to, I'm gonna throw some stuff up against the wall and see what sticks. And then if it doesn't stick, I'm gonna try again and hope for the best. So it requires some patience and just a lot of trial and error. The next thing is browse authors. So I want to see what comes up for Melville. And I get a lot of Melvilles, but we know the author's name is Herman. So let's click here. And I can go ahead and click add as well. Wow, we get a lot for Herman Melville, but I just want one. Let's just do one. Again, DE is just the prefix for a subject term and things that have been tagged as having to do with Melville. So let's go ahead and click search. 7,000 results related to Melville. Now I want to try this free will search again. So let's give that a go. So I get 9 things that come up that have to do with Melville and free will. I can also decide if I want to do scholarly peer reviewed. That gets me down to 8. So it's probably worth my time to go through here and see if any of these are relevant to my research. You can also throw terms into the thesaurus. We could type in free will, and you can click on that term and you can see that it might relate to will itself or libertarianism, but you can click the general checkbox to add the top level of a search term to your results. You can type in all sorts of other things that could come up in your in Moby Dick or in American literature at that time period, and see if you can find synonyms or the right term to really get the most results for what you're searching for. I'm going to stop there. That's just a brief intro into MLA. Another database that I did not show you, unfortunately it's not listed here on my English database list. I should probably fix that. Probably just because it's more of a general database, but there's a lot of materials in relation to literature, and that's JSTOR. So I'm going to find that in my A to Z list, limit it by J, and you get to JSTOR. I'm not going to go over that in great detail, but this is great, especially for research that might not be brand new. Sometimes there's a embargo period for the last 5 years, but especially in the humanities, that's not a problem. Older research can still be quite beneficial. So again, that's probably my next recommendation after Gale Literature Criticism and the MLA database. Briefly wanted to show you how to search on the library Catalog Plus. I call it Catalog Plus because it's not just books in our library. It also includes ebooks and Summit. So I clicked Advanced Search, the button right below the search bar. The reason I did that is because the default is everything. I might not want it to search for everything. I might want to be a little more selective in what I'm telling Primo to do for me. Because when I search everything, it's searching all of GFU. What that means is all of our print books in our catalog. Also all of our ebooks. It's searching articles. Now, this isn't necessarily every article in every database, but it's a pretty exhaustive snapshot of what we've got. Just our databases are constantly changing. New material is getting released and added to databases every day. And so it's a snapshot. And so it's when have all of our databases been synced up and servers updated. So the other thing here is GFU plus Summit. Summit, George Fox is part of a consortium of libraries called the Orbis Cascade Alliance. And there's about 40 libraries throughout the Pacific Northwest that are member institutions. So you have other similar in sized institutions like Seattle Pacific or local secular institutions like Reed and Lewis and Clark. But then you've also got big state schools like Oregon State University and the University of Washington. So not only do you have access to the print holdings, the physical holdings in our library, but also the physical holdings in these other institutions. Huge game-changing access. If you didn't already know about Summit, I hope you begin to spend some time with it. It's a great resource. So again, searching for everything is a little overwhelming because I'm not only searching George Fox, I'm searching for the print holdings in major state schools around the Pacific Northwest. So I like to be specific about what I'm telling Primo to do for me. So let's start by doing GFU. Maybe I want to look for things that come up in print books or ebooks. So let's type Moby Dick here. I'm going to get a big result, I'm sure, by just typing Moby Dick. I also didn't do any changing of fields. I just typed in Moby Dick. And let's see what I get. 213. So this means this is coming up in just our physical and ebook holdings. 213 is not that many. I should probably spend a little bit of time going through this list. Primo also has a pretty nice list of ways to tweak my results. We can see we have full text online. If you were looking for ebooks, you can see location. So I might not want a cassette tape, but then we have main stacks, and which tells me that the other 170 some results are ebook results. So those could be book chapters, and ebook chapters can also go through a pretty strong peer-reviewed vetting process as well. So some of these are going to be pretty scholarly. The other thing we can do, if I type in Moby Dick into articles, I'm going to get a much bigger result this time. So this is searching over all of our databases. I got 4,967 results. So this is where it can be important to do tweak my results. So now that I'm in articles, I want to click peer-reviewed journals. And I'm going to go ahead and click lock, because then if I tweaked my search up here at all, this would stick with me. Get down to 1,980 results. Can also to see what other languages we have access to. I can only do myself research in English, so I'm going to click apply filters. And I'm going to lock that as well. So I don't get that many different, doesn't change that much. But let's do Moby Dick and type in free will this time. Get down to 7 results. That's another thing I should probably spend some time with. I could also look here at GFU plus Summit, but it's remembering that I had peer-reviewed journals, and Summit is again looking at physical items that are in the other institutions' catalogs. So I get 45 physical resources that can come up. I'm going to get the book itself, but I'm probably going to get some films, documentaries. I'm probably going to get, I'm getting here some ebooks that come up, but I'm also going to get some literary criticisms of Moby Dick. Maybe some things that include some biographical details about Melville. I'm going to get lots of interesting things. I'm going to stop there with Primo. And I want to come back to this article that we had pulled up back from one of our other databases, this Anti-Ishmael Novel Beginnings in Moby Dick. And I'm going to use it as an example in searching in Google Scholar. Google Scholar is a resource that I both love and hate all at the same time. And I'll show you why I hate it first. So I'm going to go scholar.google.com, and I'm going to type in Moby Dick. And I get 75,000 results. That's way too many. It's not that helpful. Over here on the left, you're going to see that the only real way to limit is to limit by date. And when you're looking at the humanities, that is a really poor way to measure efficacy, because sometimes older stuff is really good in the humanities. So I don't want to just make that limitation prematurely. The only other option is I could start typing in other stuff. You'll see that I already did an example here. I already typed in Free Will Ishmael. Well, I still get down to 8,000 results, and all I did was type in more words. I don't know if that was helpful or not. So again, why I like it. I go back to this article, and I want to copy and paste this article title and put that into Google Scholar. This is why I like Google Scholar. At the back end of research. Now, this is useful if this article is really good. If this is related to what you were doing, and so we're going to pretend that this article is great. It's fantastic. So with a fantastic resource, you could see here at the bottom that this has been cited by 11 people. 11 other scholars have gone through and included this in their published research. And so you can then go through and find people who have continued the scholarly conversation. Some of them might be a bit of a stretch. Some of them might be really, really good, influential works that you need to know about. The other button I like here is related articles. Google never includes more than 100, and at least it's a small enough number. It's still a Google's algorithm. You still don't know what's behind it. You still don't know how much it controls, but it's at least a bite-sized number of things that have something to do with this topic. I'm going to go ahead and end here. I've only given you a few tools that are at your disposal as a student researcher here at George Fox. Um, I do mean it when I say what I say in the email, that I would love to meet with you, and I hope you'll book a consultation with me. Um, Please send me an email if you have any questions. Just a reminder, you can find me by going to the library website. At the bottom right, you'll see Contact Us. And if you scroll down, you're going to get to me. And there's a bio, but then there's also Schedule a Research Appointment. And when you click there, you can decide if you want this in person or on Zoom. And then you can see my calendar, and you can book me for medium, short, or long consultations depending on your needs, and go from there. If you ever don't see a time that fits you for the week ahead, and you're trying to figure something out, send me an email and I'll see what I can do. Sometimes I'm able to kind of tweak a few things on my calendar and make something work. Just know I want to be there to be a research teammate for you. All right, thanks guys.